High Performance Health Summit. I'm your host, Dr. Isaac Jones, and we're here with a very special guest, Stephanie Matos, the author of Mindful Weight Loss Method, and she's got a background that is so vast in the world of high performance. She comes from the Human Performance Institute that was founded by the authors of The Powerful Engagement and worked with executives and high-level entrepreneurs that would fly in all over the world. And so, Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here, and hopefully we get to help a lot of people with this summit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'm just so, I just love your work. I after talking with you and learning more about what you do and kind of delving into, you know, the science of how you get so many amazing results with so many people, I'd love for you to just tell your story and then also get into some of the major transformations that the executives and entrepreneurs experienced and how they experienced them, because obviously there's some real gold in respect to the experience that you've had working with so many people in the past like that.
That sounds great. Okay, so I will start with my background. So I actually used to be very overweight. I was 60 pounds overweight.
Wow.
And I struggled a lot to lose weight, and I beat myself up. I took every pill, powder, supplement out on the market. I was very uneducated and just did whatever the magazines and internet told me to do.
Right.
And along the way, I became really interested in high performance, so human performance and the body, anatomy, physiology, and that kind of turned me into going to get my undergrad in exercise physiology. I also went on to do grad work in applied exercise physiology. So
wow.
After I graduated, I went and I was lucky to get a job at the Human Performance Institute. And at that point, I had lost 30 pounds, the really unhealthy way, pretty much, you know, kind of starving myself, over-exercising, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Once I got to the Human Performance Institute, I learned so much about mindfulness, about the power of your story, the power of knowing your why. And once I learned all of these things, I realized I was focused on the outside image of myself rather than the inside. And once I realized that, I lost those extra 30 pounds in about 4 months, and it had taken me about 5 years to lose the first 30 pounds.
Wow.
So that is, you know, my story personally. When I worked at HPI, like I said, I learned all of these great tools, techniques. I worked with tons of high-level executives and saw phenomenal results. And what drove me to write the book, Mindful Weight Loss Method, is I realized that it's funny because Yuri Elkaim, he's also participating in the summit. He has a little saying that he uses, and it says, how you heal anything is how you heal everything. So
right.
if you lose weight, all of a sudden your diabetes gets better, you have less risk of heart disease, you'll be clearer mentally, all of these things. Well, I realized that how you kind of affect behavior change is the same way that you would do it no matter what that change is. So whether you want to stop smoking, whether you want to lose weight, whether you're a high-level executive and you're just burnt out, it doesn't matter what it is, all of the techniques are the same. So that's what kind of spurred me on to write the book. And essentially, the book is using the same exact tools and techniques that I learned at HPI from Dr. Jim Lair, Dr. Jack Groppel. Love those two. They're amazing teachers and mentors of mine. But I use those same exact techniques in the book and have had great success, not only with myself with weight loss, but with a lot of other people too.
So what are some of the results that you saw with the executives, entrepreneurs that would come in and go through that program?
Well, essentially, most of them were already very, very successful, but they weren't very, very happy. So
right.
They had a ton of financial success, and they had the titles, and they had the cars, and they had all this stuff. Their kids had whatever they wanted, but there was something missing.
Right.
And a lot of times they didn't even know that. So essentially our job was to kind of put a mirror in front of their face to show them maybe some of the things they could potentially work on if it was important. And how we did that was by figuring out their story, so their current story and what it was that they wanted in life. So they might say, oh, my family is 100% important to me. I do all of this work for my family. Yet their family's at home suffering, not seeing them.
Wow.
They're not making it to their baseball games. They're not making it to their plays because they're
Right.
working. So there's a big, upset there.
Incongruency.
Exactly.
Wow.
So what they're saying to be true and what they believe to be true isn't what's showing.
Wow.
So that was how we kind of went about showing them these things. And then the way that, and that was like a wake-up call for them, because they're saying, this is what's important to me and this is why I do it, yet their family saying, I don't feel wanted, I don't feel loved, I don't feel important. So what we did to kind of bridge that gap was we taught them healthy food choices, so how to eat for their energy. We taught them how to work out so that they had more energy. We taught them how to take recovery breaks so that they were managing their stress levels.
Yeah.
And all of these things just led to more success a lot of times, and more importantly, much more happiness. So that's
wow.
essentially, and we saw people, drop 100 pounds sometimes. But it was never for outside purposes. It wasn't for the way they looked. It was for, eating to be more energetic so that they weren't like a bump on a log when they got home from work, and exercising in the morning so that they could, be clearer and more focused, and they would get home earlier. Stop multitasking, because I think a lot of people think multitasking is great, but the fact is, the science shows that when you multitask, you get a lot of things partially done and not really well. So
I heard that, like, there's like the black zone and there's the white zone and there's like the gray zone, and most people live their life in a gray zone. The black zone's when you're focused on work, the white zone's when you're fully disengaged. But when they're fully disengaged and they're out fishing, or they may be watching a sporting event or whatever, they're still plugged in a little bit to their phone, kind of texting people. And then when they're at work, it's like they're doing too many things at once. So they get into this gray zone, and that's their world, is this just gray world that they live in. And they don't ever fully kind of recharge, and they don't ever really fully engage into activities. So what's the solution to help people to focus? Because multitasking issues is the biggest probably issue with all the high performers listening. It's something that we all, struggle with at times, and would love to hear your insight.
Well, I think first and foremost, when it comes to any behavior change, I think the first thing you need to figure out is your why.
Right.
So why do you want to make this behavior change? And if your why is not strong enough, and I'll just use weight loss as an example, because that just happens to be what I'm working on now, is essentially, if you want to lose weight, you can say, oh, I have a cruise in 3 months, or I have a wedding in 6 months and I want to be a size 6 on my wedding day, or I want to look great in a bikini on my cruise. But those things have an end. So when the cruise comes, what's going to push you to, spur you along to keep going? What's going to keep you healthy? And those things all come down to your why. And I would like to share an exercise that Dr. Laird used to do with his group, and it's in my book as well. So it's a little bit morbid, but it works. So if you have trouble figuring out what your why is, if you can imagine when, and unfortunately we all are going to pass away one day. Mm-hmm. How do you want those people in that room, if you could be on a fly on a wall and listen to your eulogy and the people who love you and what they're saying about you, what do you want them to say? Do you want them to say, oh my gosh, she was in a size 6 on her wedding day. That was great. Or, oh, didn't she look great in the summer of 2010 in that bikini on that cruise? That's not what you want. You want to hear them say, she was the best mother, wife, or husband, son, brother that I could have ever asked for. She made such a difference in the world. These are the things that people want. They want to leave a legacy. And your legacy, you don't want your legacy to be, oh, she looked great that one summer for like a month when she worked out really, really hard to look good for a cruise. Yeah. Right? So essentially, you can use that tool as a tool to figure out your why. Once you figure out your why, all other behavior change becomes much easier to change. So for me to tell someone, you should really stop multitasking, research shows it's just not smart.
Right.
Well, if they're kind of just plugging along, doing their thing, living life, not really with a purpose behind them, they don't really have a good reason to change that behavior. it's uncomfortable to change behavior. It's not easy. So unless you have a really strong purpose behind you, it's just not going to happen.
It's almost like lab test findings. Like when I show somebody a lab test finding, all it is really information. If then I explain to them, listen, these lab test findings are showing that you've got full-blown heart disease, and there's probably major levels of plaque formation in your arteries that could lead to a heart attack in the future, then it's real, because they're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be left from my family. I'm not going to be able to live the life that I want to live, or whatever it may be. And so it's like taking the information, which is just information, hey, don't multitask, research shows XYZ, and then making it real with like essentially plastering a Y. If you don't change these things, then you're going to, you're not going to be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life.
Yes. So the things that matter most to us are the things that, they're the reasons why we're going to change. Right. So if you're saying that your family is the most important thing to you, well, then you better figure out a way to get home early enough to make it your son's game. Yeah. You better figure out a way to not fall asleep on the couch as soon as you get home, or eat a dinner and then pass out, or just watch TV, or, whatever it may be, actually engage with them. And so that's how behavior change starts. Now, some of the ways that we make it stick, that's different. Behavior change is something that everybody on the face of the earth wants to do, yet so few people actually do it. And it's not because they're lazy bums and they don't have enough willpower, and that's not what it is. There's a lot of science behind behavior change. And, I think it's at 95% of what we do every day is unconscious. Right. So we're on autopilot. These things are habits. They're the habits that we do every single day. It just happens without us thinking. And so that leaves 5% of what we do every day is affected by conscious decision making. So conscious decision making that would be willpower and that kind of thing. So basically you're forcing yourself to make a decision that isn't on autopilot. So that's hard. And if you think about, let's say, New Year's resolutions, this becomes really clear, because New Year's resolutions, I think it's 3 days after a New Year's resolution is made, 25% of people have already messed up. And then if you fast forward maybe like 2 months, it goes to 60% have fallen off the wagon. Right. And most people will make the same New Year's resolution at least 10 times in their life. And then they either give up on it or they actually succeed. But so these statistics, it's not because people are lazy or they don't have willpower. Science shows that we have it's almost like a willpower bucket, I guess you'd say. Right. And you only have so much willpower. So if you're trying to lose weight or trying to eat more healthfully, whatever it may be, if you, I used to work at a hospital, and people would always bring the workers there, as a thank you, or to show us they cared, cookies, donuts, candy, all this stuff. So if I'm at work and I'm like, no, I'm not going to eat that cookie. No, I'm not going to eat that donut all day long, because they sit there all day. And then you get home and then you have to make healthy decisions. Your bucket is so empty from saying no all day that it's really hard to make consistent good choices. Right. So that's why instead of, and these things are hardwired in our brain from our prehistoric ancestors utilize these things to keep them alive. We are geared to go towards instant gratification, and we are also geared to make most of the things we do on autopilot. So instead of fighting against this innate, just thing that's inside of our brain from, our ancestors, prehistoric ancestors, let's use it to our advantage. We don't have to fight against this and, make every decision a willpower decision and beat ourselves up when we mess up, because we know now we only have so much. So what can we do? If we make our healthy behaviors habit or unconscious, then we don't have to worry about willpower. We don't have to focus on willpower. We don't have to utilize it. We can actually...
Now, how do you do that? So I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, great, that sounds that 95% is unconscious. how do you control that 95%?
Exactly. So how do you tap into that?
Yeah.
And essentially, what the science shows is that you can replace unhealthy habits with healthy habits. But there is a time frame that they're going to be conscious choices. This is where your why comes into play. So I like to call these things mindful actions. So mindful actions are essentially chosen healthy behaviors that you do instead of an unhealthy behavior. And you have to really kind of look at your day and figure out what it is that you're doing that does not bring you closer to living your legacy or achieving your purpose or what it is that you want in life. Those things that don't align with that are the things that you need to figure out. What can I do instead? What's a healthy behavior that I can put in place of this so that it's a little bit easier to engage in that behavior?
So substitute, essentially.
Yes.
So if you're eating Oreos every day, it's better to have like the gluten-free, Noonan's, organics or something like that. So
exactly.
It's not like, 100% getting away from sugar by any means, but it's a transition. It's a substitution.
Subtle shifts over time are what make sustainable behavior change. And so I'm probably a little bit different than other people on this summit because I'm not very black and white when it comes to eating and exercising.
Right.
If I can get somebody to eat, instead of 10 Oreos, 3 Oreos, that is a huge win for me. And I would take that, instead of something else. So exactly. So you're replacing it with something that's healthier, and it doesn't feel as though you're suffering because you know your purpose. It's going towards your why. And eventually over time, and I like to take people through a 90-day training period where, the first 30 days you're implementing and it's a little bit tough, but you do what you can. You pack a bag before you go to work with your workout clothes, or you put your tennis shoes where right at the front door. So after dinner, you're ready to go on your walk. Yeah. Do these things. And then the next 30 days, you're basically kind of just solidifying those habits.
It's interesting because James Clear, in the one interview that I had with him on habit transformation, was saying something very similar. And it's so interesting because most people think, oh, it's 21 days to create a habit. And Travis Dammert showed, that the research is actually, it actually shows it's not necessarily 21 days. And so I love this 90-day thing because it's congruent with what our other, behavioral change experts have talked about, and that, some habits, depending on how big they are, can take longer, and some habits that perhaps are a little bit easier can take a shorter period of time. But this makes so much sense. So 90 days completely.
Yeah. Well, and I have to give some credit to Dr. Lair and Dr. Groppel because the 90 days is something that I learned from them, and 90 days is exactly what I told you. There's been people that have lost 100 pounds, not in 90 days, but essentially what you do is you work your way up to 90 days, and then you're feeling so good, you feel accomplished, you've done so much great stuff, you start another 90 days. Yeah. And just like you said, there's some habits that, are very hard to change. And there's habits that you might even, have to tag on to your next 90 days. However, you always have that purpose and mission and drive behind you that's fueling the fire to keep you going. And that's what it is. That's how behavior change happens.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And, if anyone is interested in, learning more about the university, the High Performance University, will be essential. If you invest into the summit package, you'll learn more about that. But that's the strategy that we use: is 90-day goal setting. Let's implement these habit strategies to solidify them into your life, so you can truly get to high levels of high performance. But I just love it. It's so brilliant, and it really does make a whole lot of sense. Now, there's the whole issue with habit transformation. Makes sense, but like if we have, say, 5 goals 10 goals, is it important just to focus on maybe like, 5 or 4 or less versus like the overwhelming yourself and causing yourself to perhaps have this major expectation, but you're not accomplishing what you want to,
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I recommend is 3 habits or 3 mindful actions per goal. So, but you only have 3 goals.
Yes.
And so on those 3 goals, you have 3 mindful actions.
Got it.
And so let's say if your goal is to lose weight or eat more healthfully, whatever it may be, or take breaks throughout the day, which is something we can kind of talk about later, as it's very important to take breaks throughout the day.
Yep.
You would then create mindful actions. So if your goal is to take breaks, well, one of your mindful actions would be every day set an alarm. So at whatever time I take a break and I go on a 2-minute walk and say hello to my coworkers.
Yeah.
One of your mindful actions could be when I need an answer from someone, rather than calling them on the phone, I'm thinking at work, rather than calling them on the phone or emailing them, I will physically walk to their cubicle, say hello, give them a smile, ask them the question, get the answer, and go back to my desk.
Yeah.
So you're incorporating movement and you're incorporating a break. And then the third one could be, set an alarm and read my purpose at, right before I go home from work or something like that. So that would be 3 mindful actions that you do either daily or, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or, you can pick your days depending on what that mindful action is. So if your goal is to start working out so you have more energy when you get home, well, then your mindful action could be pack my bag every night before I go to bed. It could be, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go to the gym, even if I'm tired, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if I just pedal on a bike really slow, whatever it is, you're just creating that habit.
Yeah.
So I would recommend 3 mindful actions per goal.
Wow, that's fantastic. So yeah, because you can oftentimes the definition. This is one of the definitions of stress, at least that I've heard, is that it's essentially unmet expectations. So if you put too many crazy expectations on yourself, it can kind of create an immense amount of stress.
Yeah. My philosophy is very much baby steps. Yeah. I really enjoy watching people achieve their full potential by not stressing them out and freaking them out with all of the things they have to do. Yeah. So they don't have to go from super unhealthy to healthy overnight, but these little changes become habits, and it's like all of a sudden they are a butterfly and they just emerge, and it's like they didn't have to try that hard, because these things just become habits, and all of a sudden they're not even thinking about them anymore. So they just attack on more and more. And you keep track of everything we have a mindful action tracker is what we call it in the book. And essentially it just gives you a place to put your goals, put your mindful actions, and then you have a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 that says, how did I do today on this? And if you're consistently not doing well on that mindful action, you need to tailor that. You need to change it to something that you can achieve. And then maybe that's just too lofty of a mindful action right now. Just take it down a level, and then once you start achieving that consistently, then you go up a level.
That's fantastic. Well, I know that probably a lot of the executives you've worked with, a lot of the entrepreneurs you've worked with, a lot of high-performing individuals, they have a lot of stress in their bodies. It probably shows up in their shoulders and back pain and all that. But there's consistent stress. They're crushing their adrenals. Their cortisol's like constantly fluctuating. Their insulin's probably out of control, and it's like part of the just driving kind of culture that we have in our industrialized nations: Canada, the U.S., the U.K., Australia, Japan. And so, what is the best way for us as high-performing individuals? Because I know you are. I definitely know I am. What can we do to minimize stress, just melt stress off of our body? Because I know you've helped countless numbers of executives do this.
Yes. So stress is incredibly detrimental to our body, to our health. It's bad for the brain. I mean, if you're super stressed out, you can't remember things.
Yeah.
Things fall to the wayside.
Yeah.
So that is definitely one of the major important things that you can do for yourself as a high performer. And, like you said, especially high-level executives, high performers, entrepreneurs, we have a mentality that is go, 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 get it done. We can do anything. We want to just go, as hardcore as we can till we burn out, and essentially that's what our bodies do. And rather than taking yourself to the point where, I'm going to work for 3 months straight, have this amazing launch, and then I'll take like a 2-month vacation because I'm so burnt out.
Yeah.
Rather than doing that, take breaks throughout the day. And, I kind of used that example before. So if you should be taking mindful breaks, so mindful recovery breaks is what I like to call them, every 2 hours minimally. And, that's going to vary day to day. I mean, essentially best case scenario is that you're taking these mindful recovery breaks every 2 to 3 hours. 2 would be better. A mindful recovery break can be essentially, it can be 1 minute, it can be 5 minutes, it can be 30 minutes. It just depends on what you have going on at that moment. So for me, mindful recovery breaks are connecting to what matters most to me, like just connecting with a spiritual dimension for myself, connecting with I have 2 dogs, whatever that may be, like whatever's like super important to you, that's what you do. You can focus on your purpose. You can just do deep breathing. You can do meditation, whatever it is that you can do at that moment. Some people like to just look at a picture of their family or look at a picture of their significant other. Yeah. And that's one that would take just a minute. If you can get up and stand up, that's even better. But, if you can't, then just a minute of deep breathing.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I say that it's essential to watch Ben Greenfield's interview. Was absolutely amazing on that, as well as, when we're talking about strategies for meditation, Jesse Elder's video was just so unbelievable. It gets right into, these deep meditative strategies that are just, it was amazing. So, yeah. No, that's fantastic. I love all of this.
Those things are so powerful for stress reduction.
Yeah.
Deep breathing, focusing on your purpose, meditation, like Jesse says. And, I just want to kind of say, I used to think that meditation was something like kind of woo-woo and out there, only like, you had to have crystals and incense going to do. But really, there's so much science behind meditation. And essentially, meditation is just being in the present moment for an extended period of time.
Is that what mindfulness is as well? Is that the whole concept of mindfulness, is just being present conscious?
Yeah, and I would love to actually talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, please, because I mean, this is a huge topic. New York Times bestselling book came out on it by Dan Goldman, who was the author of Emotional Intelligence. He just recently wrote a book called Focus, and the core of the book was mindfulness, so it's really interesting. And now these people are like mindfulness, but you've been at this for so long. I would love to just get your take on what it is, and what's the benefit of being mindful and what that looks like practically.
Okay, so basically mindfulness is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I put it in the title of my book, and it's something that I really believe is essential for not only high-level executives, not only high performers, but the entire world. I think that if everybody could just be a little bit more mindful, this world would be such a better place. Now, mindfulness is essentially just keeping yourself in the present moment. And I think people don't realize how much they are not in the present moment. They're either thinking about the future, worry and stress related to future happenings, or they're thinking about the past. That comes along with anxiety, regret, and feeling guilty. And all of those things, are just essentially, I like to say they're useless emotions,
Right.
because no amount of worry, regret, or stress that you have about the past is going to take you back into time machine and let you relive that moment.
Right.
And no amount of stress or freaking out or whatever you want to call it about the future is going to give you a crystal ball and tell you exactly what's going to happen. So
Right.
it's pointless to be in either place. When you are mindful and when you focus on the here and now and you keep your mind where your body is, a lot of amazing things happen. You become less stressed. You become less anxious. You are happier. You're healthier. All of these great things happen, and essentially all it is just keeping focused on the present moment. And that is in a nutshell what mindfulness is, and that is, I think, something that is lacking in the society today, is people just being connected to others and connected with themselves and connected to the moment.
Wow, that's so powerful. Now, what can we do to practically apply this to our lives? Because it's one thing to understand what mindfulness is, but it's a completely other thing to actually practice it every day.
Well, and I was one, years ago, I was completely in the past and the future. I rarely was in the present moment. And it isn't easy, but if you set alarms and if you essentially remind yourself, pull yourself back to the present moment, whether that's, look right here, this is a pencil that's on my desk.
Right.
That's the present moment.
Right.
If you're finding yourself worrying or feeling anxious, if you just take a mind check and say, what am I thinking about? Is that happening right this second? No, it's not.
Right.
I'm pull myself back. Focus on your breathing, and meditation is something that I've recently really gotten into and realized how helpful it is for mindfulness. And essentially that means happiness, healthiness, less anxiety, less stress, feeling positive. And all of these things are so important for behavior change.
Right.
It's not even funny. I mean, mindset is essentially, if I could say one thing that people could work on, two things, I would say. It's mindset and mindfulness.
Right.
Mindset is essentially, changing your negative thoughts into positive thoughts and telling those negative bullies and negative people in your head that pipe up all the time to sit down and be quiet.
Right.
Basically just have rebuttals for them. Like, I'm not going to listen to you today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something different,
Right.
just change your mindset.
I have somebody told me an analogy once. It was about most people, they carry the past with them everywhere they go. And he says it's like if you experience some, crap on the road of life, most people will pick it up and they'll analyze it and then they'll throw it in their wheelbarrow or their backpack and they'll carry it with them. And then every so often they'll go back and they'll pick it up out of the wheelbarrow and they'll look at it and they wonder why their life stinks, right? So it's like,
oh my gosh, that's really funny.
Yeah, and it's like it's the truth. It's like so many people carry SH blank T with them everywhere they go, and it's like it's so sad. And the reality is I still struggle with this every once in a while. Mindfulness has helped me so much, and like you said, it's just that moment. I remember I was driving back from my wife's parents' house, and I was thinking about all the things I needed to do, and I started feeling my heart race. Physiologically, your brain is having that big of an impact on your adrenals, on all of the systems of your body. And I stopped, and I'm listening to the executive book summary of the book Focus, and as opposed to going on to the next book to read or to listen to, I stopped the CD. And I just applied that mindfulness strategy you talked about. And I just started taking deep breaths, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and I looked at my, newborn baby sitting there in the baby seat, and I saw his face, and it was just so overwhelming. I was like, oh my gosh, there's heaven all around me, and I'm deleting it because I'm thinking about things in the past or the future. And I literally started crying there in the driver's seat because of how powerful that was. I'm like, this could be my life every day. It's like.
And that's such a great example because, as you were talking, I was thinking about my prior self before I discovered all of these great tools and techniques and put them into use. And it honestly feels like a veil has been lifted off of you when you start to practice these things.
Yeah.
And, you know, I I just hope that people, when, you know, they're listening out there, they just take one of these things and start to implement them.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long for you to see results. And just like you said, I mean, from 1 minute to the next, you realized, wow. And our brain is so powerful.
Mm.
But we can use it to our benefit, not to our detriment. And that's the thing, is that when we run on autopilot, we're allowing our powerful brain to take over and take us wherever it wants.
Wow.
And generally, it goes in a negative direction. And for whatever reason, it just is. And if we can pull it back and pull ourselves back to the present moment and remind ourselves, that is a memory. That is I'm fortune telling. I have no idea what's going to happen. There might be traffic, there might not be. The meeting I'm worried about right now might get canceled. You know, it doesn't, like, things like that. If you can just bring yourself back to the present moment. And, you know, one thing I will mention as well is that when you do that over and over, our brain is like Play-Doh. So it's essentially, you're able to remold the circuitry in your brain by doing something over and over and over again. So when I was beginning this mindfulness journey, I mean, I really had a lot of negative thoughts about myself. I thought, you're so fat, oh my gosh, how can you can't go to the pool, you can't go with your friends to the beach, you can't, you know, all these negative things. And I held myself back a lot. So I had to literally minute to minute to minute remind myself to pull myself out of that. Pull myself out of the past, pull myself out of the future, and focus on the here and now. Every single second.
Wow.
And little by little, it became to where, you know, and not that I have moments like you do too, where it's like, I'm freaking out. But I'm able to say, I don't have to freak out. Like, everything's going to be okay. The world isn't going to end. Nobody's going to die. This will be fine, you know?
I would love to just, you know, it's so powerful. And like, I know your mindful weight loss program is unbelievably powerful, utilizing all these incredible strategies. And, you know, just talking to you right now, it just makes me want to go through and read through your book again, just because of, you know, just how incredible these concepts are. You know, what I would love, you know, practically is what can, like, assume that we've got somebody here in the call with us, and, you know, they're man, woman, perhaps there's two people on the call with us, a man and a woman, and they're, you know, they're overweight, maybe 10, 15 pounds. They've got, you know, some fatigue issues. There's a little bit of a higher level of stress. You know, it's just like they've got a lot going on. They're busy individuals. How would you kind of walk through the process of perhaps some of the things? I know you can't get into all the things in your program, but some of the things that would be like, man, this is the first step, second step, bam, this is what's going to help you truly lose weight, but not just in a way that's, or just transform your life, but not just in a way that's short-term attainable, but that is long-term sustainable.
Yes, and essentially, everything that we discussed today is all important. I would first find out your why. I think knowing your why, and I call that your weight loss why, is so important when it comes to anything. So whether it's, like we said, smoking, any kind of behavior change, if you don't have a strong enough why, then you know, you're more likely to fail. Yeah. And the way that you would do that is using that eulogy exercise. I mean, just go, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to touch people's lives? What are the things that are most important to you? And then work backwards from there.
What if like, I feel like a lot of people deal with low levels of perhaps self-worth or confidence, and maybe, you know, they can't go in their mind there to the eulogy and get to that point. What would you say to them if they're just not 100% confident in who they are, or perhaps doing that kind of an exercise would be a little bit more challenging for them?
Well, and I appreciate you asking me that question, because honestly, my whole goal with Mindful Weight Loss Method is to elevate people to their next best self. Nice. Give them high self-esteem, feel confident and secure in themselves. And one of the, just, you know, techniques that I can think of right this second is what I have people do is write down all of the negative thoughts that they have looping through their brain.
Yeah.
You know, you're too fat to do this, or no one's ever going to hire you to do that, or all the just negative self-talk. And what I have them do is actually picture that as a mean, ugly bully who's saying that stuff to them. And if you had a real person in front of you saying those things to you, you would want to fight back, and you would say, no, that's not true. And, so what I have them do is write rebuttals to everything that this bully's saying to them. And when these things pop up, you say your rebuttal. And generally speaking, most of the time when people are in this negative self-talk, they've negative self-talked themselves their whole life.
Right.
They know for sure this bully's wrong. They haven't excelled. They have low self-confidence. Nothing negative that has helped them eat better. Them saying like, oh, I ate a cupcake, the whole day's ruined, or, stuff like that. That's never worked in the past.
Right. So
now you can say, no, I'm not going to listen to you this time. You've never steered me in the right direction. You're full of crap, and I'm not going to listen to you. And you have these rebuttals ready to go. So every time these negative thoughts pop up, you have something to say to that person, and you picture it as a person saying that to you, and you tell them no. And then that person, you pull your power back from that person little by little by little.
Wow. That's so powerful. Thank you so much for giving us that practical strategy. So number one, find out your weight loss why, or find out your big why for wanting to get to a high level of performance. So what would be the next step? What would you say is the next step? And like I said, I know there's dozens of really awesome strategies in your book that we can't get into, but I would love to just know some number two, or what the next step would be.
So after you have your why, and this can change from day to day or week to week, as you kind of hone in on exactly what it is you want.
Yeah.
So you just have an idea of what it is. What you'll do is then create 3 goals that will get you one step closer to fulfilling that why.
Right.
So fulfilling your why. And once you have your goals, and we have a whole goal setting, technique that we use. It's basically SMART, but a little bit SMART goals, but a little bit more tailored. Yeah. And once you have those goals, you then, I guess, step 3 would be to create 3 mindful actions for each one of those goals. So essentially, that's 3 new healthy habits. I'm sorry, 6 new.
9.
Yeah. 9. I'm like, I can add 9 new healthy habits that you'll have after a 90-day period.
Right. That's incredible.
Yep.
And so, being from the Human Performance Institute and having, Jim Lair and these other really amazing people as your mentors, what are some of the best just, hacks, high performance strategies, gold nuggets that you learned that are listen, you need to have this as your part of your repertoire if you want to be a truly high performing individual?
Yep. And I would say number 1, most important, is taking recovery breaks. So strategic recovery breaks, we call them mindful recovery breaks. And essentially, if you do not do this, you will crash and burn. You will have adrenal fatigue. You won't be a fun person to be around. You'll be unhealthy.
Yeah.
And if you just implement that little strategy of these small recovery breaks throughout the day, and number 1, most important that I think anybody could do is deep breathing. Yeah. So deep belly breathing, diaphragmatic breath. It's been shown to completely switch your nervous system from fight or flight to back to homeostasis, which is just, your normal, calm self. And, that pulls all your hormone levels back down, your cortisol, all of that good stuff. Yes, we'll do a deep breath. Everybody can do one right now. Oh, it feels so good.
There is a strategy to do it. It's diaphragmatic breathing, not chest breathing, right? Exactly.
So I can actually show you the way you do it. Basically, what you want to do is sit up nice and tall in your chair, Put your hand on your belly, so right around where your belly button is, and you want to breathe without letting your shoulders go up or your chest go up. So if you keep your shoulders down and your chest down, fill your belly, and then exhale through the mouth.
Oh, so you're not actually, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll fill my belly and then I'll fill my chest, but just fill your belly?
Just fill your belly, yeah. Because high breathing is associated with fight or flight. Chest breathing is associated with, high cortisol levels, low, just all kinds of stuff. You know what it is.
Exactly. Everyone's probably like, that's me, chest breather.
Yeah, well, most of us are. So if you can just have like a chime on your phone that's very light, that just reminds you to do just a little check on yourself. Right. How's your breathing? How's your posture? Are you sitting up tall? Are you hunched over? Are you breathing high up in your chest? Chances are you will be. And then you just take a couple deep breaths, try to reset your breathing to diaphragmatic breathing, a more natural breath that will take you back down to your normal levels of stress. And that is a huge thing that there's no excuses. You can do this in your car. You can do it on a flight. You can do it at your desk. You can do it anywhere. And another thing is movement. Honestly, that's another recovery. So we're going to stick to recovery as what I think would be the most implementable and easiest thing that an executive could use to increase their increase their energy levels, increase their productivity, and increase their performance. So if you, every 2 hours, minimally stand up, you're essentially doubling your metabolism, and read metabolism as energy levels just simply by standing up. And you can do a test to show this. So if you take your pulse seated and then just stand up, wait about 5 seconds, and then take it again, it'll be double.
Wow. I
mean, maybe not double, but very close to double. It should be close to double, if not double.
Wow.
And yep, so just simply standing up. Now, if you make that a walk, 10 times better. If you make that a 5-minute walk, even better. I mean, you can literally just go to get water and come back, and your energy levels will be higher. But you have to do it strategically. Yeah. So don't do it reactively. Don't wait until, it's 2 o'clock and you're in that slump. Do this throughout the day so you're
preventatively.
Yes, preventatively. So you're, instead of going way down like this, you're just kind of going to go like that. Subtle shifts rather than dips. Yep. And if you can't get up, if you're on a plane, if you're driving, something like that, you can do small movements. So even if you're just stretching your arms overhead or doing stretching, knees to chest, things like that, all of that stuff gets your blood flow going and deconstricts the muscles. So your blood flow is going, you're getting oxygenated blood to your system, and that increases mental function.
Wow, this is great. Obviously, huge strategy. Setting your alarm every 2 hours ideally is the best way to implement this, right?
Yes, and mindful recovery breaks for deep breathing, I would do those at least every 2 hours, but between every 30 minutes, every 2 hours. Movement breaks where you're doing movements that are, standing up or taking a walk or whatever it may be, you shouldn't go longer than 2 hours without moving.
Gotcha. Okay, wow. So, this whole concept of recharging your energy and maximizing your productivity through these recovery breaks obviously is huge. Are there any other kind of counterintuitive things that people wouldn't really think of that would really help to skyrocket performance?
What they wouldn't think of, I would say mindfulness. I mean, I think mindfulness, mindset are two things that people don't realize are so important when it comes to your energy. And we're essentially energy beings. I mean, we are made of atoms, and atoms have electrons going around them, and that's what we are made of. That's what everything in this world is made of. So we really affect our lives by the energy that we bring to things. And so if we have a low energy, everybody around us is going to be kind of blah.
Right.
We're blah, and our work is going to be blah.
Right.
So if we can bring a positive energy, like even you just talking about seeing, baby Isaac in the back seat, and you were like, oh my gosh, why am I freaking out? Like, I have such a great, life. And so your energy perked up just talking about that.
Yeah.
When you pull yourself out of the past, when you pull yourself out of the future, and you focus on the present, your energy just elevates. And that means your performance elevates. That means you elevate the people around you.
Wow.
And we all help each other just become better, bigger and better at what we do. And so I would say that those are two things, I might be partial and a little biased to them, but I think that those are two things that a lot of people don't realize how much they can benefit from it.
No, this is so fantastic. Stephanie, thank you so much for just investing the time that you have with us and giving us all these practical strategies from all the years of experience and coaching and helping all these high-level entrepreneurs and executives and people even that just want to accomplish something huge. They have a big vision, big goal, even if they're not an executive or an entrepreneur, all these strategies can help really skyrocket your performance, help you lose weight and maximize energy and just overall joy in life. I think at the core of positive psychology, at the core of helping, increase your mood throughout the entire day and what I call living a heaven on earth every day is the discussion that we've just had. And being mindful is really at the core of that. So, this is such a great topic. I'm really happy that, we had somebody go as in-depth as you did in the summit about this, because again, it's really at the core of transformation and high performance. And I would love to know, like, where can people find more information about you? Obviously, there's probably a lot of people that would love to pick up a copy of your book, The Mindful Weight Loss Method, or the ebook that you have. Where do they go to get that?
Yep. Basically, you can find information about me, about my weight loss journey, about the book that I wrote, and all of the fun extras that we included in the package at mindfulweightlossmethod.com. Awesome. And I also have a blog that I update weekly with fun fitness and nutrition facts at Fact Finder Steph. And I also have a YouTube channel that's Method Weight Loss, and I update that with 2 or 3 fun videos every single week. And I also have Twitter and Instagram, which are Fact Finder Steph, both of those. And I really, really, really am truly dedicated to bringing people to a higher place in life. And whether that's through weight loss or whether that's through positive mindset, whatever it may be, I like to talk to people personally. So I'm talking to my followers daily, and people can email me. And that's about it. I hope to hear from people.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. And if you don't mind, I'll brag a little bit more about you. Stephanie has literally been part of a lot of health New York Times bestselling book campaigns. She, when you go on other, really popular websites and you're reading a really great article, oftentimes she's the one that's actually writing these articles. She researches in depth the research around health and high performance and behavioral change and weight loss and how to skyrocket your energy. And so, like you said, mindfulweightlossmethod.com, factfindersteph.com is your blog. And then, mindful weight loss or method weight loss for your YouTube channel. And pretty much everything else is Fact Finder Steph. So yeah, thank you so much. If you love this interview, what we're doing is we're making transcripts and summary documents of those transcripts, as well as the resources that all of our high-performing experts have talked about in our interviews. We're creating a resource document. You can get those when you invest into the Summit package. Definitely do that. It's unbelievable value. And again, Stephanie, thank you so much for investing the time and delivering the value that you did today in this interview.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I can't wait to attend the summit and see all of the amazing speakers that you have. It's so exciting.
Thank you, Stephanie. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.